topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good afternoon, Arizona. Welcome to another Ask the Expert show. If you know, our show starts off in the great state of Florida. We got a hurricane on the way. And I just want to say we are so blessed because our first expert, he has a specialty that we got so many of your letters and ask us if we could find an expert in neuropathy. And I didn't realize there's a lot of doctors out there who say they do neuropathy, but come to find out, there's really only one doctor. His name is Dr. Patrick Sards, and we are so lucky to get him. Let me welcome him to the show.
Hello, Steve.
We really are lucky to have you. This is something that you are so knowledgeable about. And Dr. Sards, I was so surprised that so many people suffer from neuropathy.
It's quite common that it's estimated that up to 25 to 30% of people over the 65 will develop neuropathy at some point in time in their life. The thing that I'm finding to be surprising is that in the last month, I've had a lot of people in my office that are actually under the age of 45. And
Whoa.
This I find to be quite concerning because there's something going on in our environment that's starting to cause some problems because these are not necessarily people with diabetes.
Do you have any idea what it might mean?
And in actuality, some of it may be some of the things that we're eating, some of the environmental issues. Neuropathy, basically 30 to 40% of people that have it will have idiopathic neuropathy. And that is we can test you. We know that you've got it. We just don't know why. And these are the types of cases that are coming in at this particular time, that they're young, they're vibrant, they exercise, they're doing all the things that should be keeping them healthy, and yet they're starting to develop these particular problems. And I find that very concerning because of the fact that neuropathy, if not caught and treated in time, can be very devastating and lead to people ending up in wheelchairs and within just a matter of a few years.
And I think you also have told me before that there could be amputations involved.
It's a possibility that those are more likely to occur with people with diabetes where their blood sugar is not as controlled as it needs to be. These are the people that are running the major risks. That people with other types of causes of peripheral neuropathy generally are not going to run the risk of having amputations. It's a threat that some of my colleagues might use to get them to sign up for their particular program, but it's not really a risk that they're actually having to worry about.
Dr. Sards, tell people about your practice.
Well, I practice in Mesa, Arizona, but my neuropathy patients, I have many of them across the country and actually in England and Israel. So people that I've never actually met face to face, that I've done it basically like this through a Zoom call or FaceTime, something that way. The treatments that we do are actually done at home. I got involved in it because my mom suffered with neuropathy. It started when I was about 12. By the time I was in my late 20s, my mom was already fully confined to a wheelchair and in a great deal of pain. And when I got out of school, I started trying to find something to help her. And unfortunately, ultimately, I failed, that my mom passed away before I could find anything. But about 16, 17 years ago, I found some things that showed some promise, and I've been successfully treating neuropathy now for about 16 years. We no longer do it in our office due to the fact that I have a treatment. I don't have a cure. And my goal is to be able to give people a neuropathy-free life. And I can do that if they'll actually do the treatments at home.
You know, I got to tell you, I appreciate your honesty, because I think there's doctors out there that overstate what they can do. And I love that you are so conscious about the information you give out. What is neuropathy?
Well, neuropathy is a disease process of the peripheral nerves. That is, the nerves outside of the central nervous system, the spinal cord and the brain. Once it exits the skull or the spinal column, it is a peripheral nerve. Now, the type that we generally are talking about are those that are affecting the nerve endings at the skin level, generally in the feet, sometimes in the hands, but it can be systemic. It can be throughout the entire body. But primarily the people that we see and that start to develop are developing it in their hands and feet first. What ends up happening is a loss of oxygen is the primary cause for over 98% of the cases of neuropathy, and it causes the cells at the ends of the nerves, the skin level, to actually die off. They go deeper in the tissue, and then they fire on their own. Very similar to maybe what an amputee might experience with phantom pains in a limb they no longer have. And then this can also affect their balance due to the fact that those nerve endings are not down at the sole of the foot. So they might feel like they're walking on a sponge or a piece of cardboard. And so their balance starts to become affected, and they're become dependent on their depth perception to maintain their balance.
So somebody's in their car right now listening to our show. What are the symptoms? I mean, how will someone know if they might have neuropathy?
Generally, what they'll start to develop is some numbness. Maybe their feet might feel cold to them, except when they touch them, they're not, they're warm. The reason that happens is the nerve that actually carries that sensation of cold is recessed deeper into the tissue. It's firing, it's telling your brain, my feet are cold, but when you go to touch them, they're actually warm.
Wow.
But numbness is the primary thing. And then unfortunately it can develop. We have different nerve endings carry different sensations, so they can start getting sharp shooting pains, the tingling, pins and needles. The variety can go on. The sharp shooting pains can be very devastating at some times because they can be extremely intense. That it is not unusual that I have people coming into my office that rate their pain as a 10 out of 10.
Wow, that's pretty painful.
It is.
So these, I remember someone called us up last time wanting to know if losing their balance had anything to do with neuropathy.
And it does. As I was saying, is because those nerve endings don't go down to the sole of the foot anymore, they become dependent on their depth perception. And so if they close their eyes and washing their hair in the shower, I know you don't have to worry about that, but the thing is that closing their eyes, they can actually start to lose their balance just because of the fact that the way they maintain their balance is knowing that they're 10 feet away from a wall. You put them out in the middle of a large field, in a football field, their balance is going to be bad if they're looking straight out, if they're not looking at the ground, because of the fact that those, whatever they're seeing is too far away to actually be able to maintain their balance. So they have to walk with their head down so that they can use the ground as their adjustment for that portion.
When somebody comes into your office and they start giving you symptoms they have, and you might think it's neuropathy, do you run any tests? Is there blood work?
Yes. We don't do blood work per se. We do a test that's called the Toronto Clinical Scoring System for Peripheral Neuropathy. Basically, it's a sensory exam that was developed by a couple of neurologists about 22 years ago, one of them out of the University of Toronto, one out of Harvard. It's gone through a number of different studies, and it's a subjective test in nature in the fact that what we do is we test them for 7 different sensations, comparing how things feel in their lower legs, in their feet, or in their hands, if that's where they're suffering with it, to a spot on their face. Basically, when everything's normal, you've got the same nerve endings up in your cheek that you do in your big toe. You should feel everything the same way. And neuropathy is a disease of sensory nerves. It can start to affect the muscle aspect of it and make people feel like they're weak and things this way, just due to the fact they're not getting that feedback from their sensory nerves. And so it is not uncommon that people start to develop problems with walking in this and not being able to go for a long distance because of the fact that it just becomes so much more work because they're not getting that sensory aspect. They're having to hold themselves so much more rigidly because of the balance issues.
What about, are there supplements people can take?
There's a lot of supplements that are out on the market that if you go onto the internet and put in neuropathy and supplements, there's probably 3 or 4, 5, 600 of them. Some of them, alpha lipoic acid can actually give you some relief. It's an amino acid, and it can help to decrease some of the aspects of the neuropathy as far as the oversensitivity that you might have to the nerves and calm them down somewhat. B12 can do the same things. But our treatment protocols that we have, we do use a supplement to increase a compound called nitric oxide in our body, which is a naturally occurring substance, but our production of it does start to decrease around the age of 40. And we'll go into that maybe a little bit more in detail in another show. But we increase their nitric oxide levels so that they can actually get more oxygen and nutrients into their cells. And that is the primary supplement that I use. But my overall treatment that I use is a form of infrared light to actually treat the nerves. We've done skin biopsies where we've taken plugs of skin from 2 or 3 areas in the lower leg and the feet, counted the nerve endings at the skin level, and shown that we can actually increase the nerve density by over 400%. So we are able to reverse the neuropathy. Maintaining it is the real key, and that's the reason that we've gone to a home treatment protocol, so people can get that type of relief and then continue to treat themselves as needed so it does not reoccur.
We just got a text from Joe in Flagstaff. Great show. What happens if you don't take care and treat the neuropathy?
It will continue as a progressive disease. As I mentioned, that my mom ended up in a wheelchair within 16 years. And that's where she spent the last 16 years of her life, was in that wheelchair. Fortunately, she married really well. That my dad took excellent care of her and made sure that she had the best life that she possibly could. But not everybody's going to have that opportunity. This will become a point where it will ruin your life.
Wow.
It will change everything.
The treatments that you do, how long do they have to continue? Is it something they have to do for the rest of their life?
For the rest of their life, at least at this particular time. There's advances in healthcare throughout time, but so there may be something coming down, 10, 15, 20 years from now that will eradicate this completely. But at this particular time, there's nothing that is coming up that's going to. So this is a lifetime treatment. It's intense in the very beginning during the healing stage, and then need to do it occasionally as the maintenance. And when I say occasionally, treatments are done twice a day, 5 to 7 days a week during the healing stage, 1 to 2 times a week for the maintenance stage for the rest of their life.
Well, that's not bad. I read an article, Dr. Sars, that it can disrupt your sleep.
Yeah. Basically, here's what ends up happening is a lot of people say that it's worse as soon as they take off their shoes and socks at night and try to go to bed. And the reason being is that particularly in the early stages of neuropathy, you still have a lot of normal nerve endings. When you're up on your feet, you've got your shoes and your socks on, you're doing things and that, they don't bother you too much. But as soon as you take your shoes and socks off, there's nothing stimulating those normal nerves. And so the abnormal ones become more dominant at that time. And so then they can start to fire. And so you might get the sharp shooting pains. You might get the cold sensations or the hot sensations if that nerve is involved. It become very disruptive because of the fact that your feet basically are constantly having some weird sensation going on, and it's just not letting you actually relax and go to sleep.
Have you seen where any type of laser treatment helps?
Well, laser treatments basically are infrared. And so the problem with a laser is that in definition, and when we're talking about lasers, we're talking about cold lasers, which is actually a misnomer that they still put out heat. This is the reason that they need to be continuously moving. But the area that we have with neuropathy is so intense that, and the largest laser that's out there is maybe the size of the light, maybe a $50. So the neuropathy may be in taking up your entire foot. So you need to do 20 minutes with that laser, and you're not going to be able to get a medical grade laser to use in your home. So the problem is then you're going into the office for these treatments for the rest of your life. And then if there's a size of a $50, how many $50 can you tape onto each of your feet? And each one of those has to be 20 minutes. So now you're looking at spending your day having those treatments done. Our units are actually a form of infrared light that is designed specifically to treat neuropathy, and it treats the entire foot. So the entire treatment per foot is 20 minutes twice a day. And it is very, very effective. That we have had a 98% success rate over the last 4 years. And when I say success, I mean at least a 65% reduction in the symptoms and an 80% improvement in their balance.
So that's probably why a lot of people who have fallen down.
Exactly right.
And they don't even know they have it.
No, that a lot of times that's true. And the thing is that falls can be very, very dangerous as we get older. That if we fall and break a hip, there's a 33% chance that we're going to die within a year. And we're not dying because of the broken hip. We're dying that during the recuperation time, we're in bed and we're laying there and we might develop pneumonia or something this way. And so a fractured hip as we get older is extremely dangerous. And this is the reason that we want to make sure that we do all these things possible to mitigate these particular circumstances. And people that have neuropathy, this is a true ongoing problem from that aspect. That death, basically life expectancy for someone with neuropathy is actually cut back by about 3.5 to 4 years.
Wow.
On average.
See, you know what? I got to tell you, I'm so glad that we're doing this show. There are so many people who do not know anything about neuropathy. And I got a letter a couple of weeks ago, and it was just somebody who heard your show. And that's why I brought up about the laser. They were told that laser would definitely get rid of the neuropathy. And they had more problems after those treatments than anything. And
yeah, unfortunately, that's true. In 86, I bought a $75,000 laser. I used it for about 6 months, and I sold it for $32,000 afterwards.
Wow!
So it was it created more problems than. But I didn't know as much at that particular time. Also, okay, I've learned a lot in the last 16 and a half, almost 17 years. And I'm constantly learning that there's new stuff that's coming out all the time. That I had a patient there's a new supplement that he talked about today that I'm going to investigate to see if this could actually aid, and maybe we can get this up where my patients, that 98% of them can get a 90 to 100% improvement. There's a lot of things out there that are coming up in that. So nothing that I've done is stagnant. I doubt that I've gone 6 months doing the exact same thing over the years, just due to the fact that new things come up that I can incorporate into it and get better results. And my ultimate goal is to make sure that no one ends up like my mom.
We just got a text from somebody, and he said, I hope this is not an odd question. Can toe fungus cause neuropathy?
No, but what causes toe fungus causes neuropathy. Funguses grow in anaerobic conditions, that is, where there's no oxygen. And so generally, it is not uncommon that people that have neuropathy have toe fungus. The toe fungus may have come first, but it's basically the same mechanism that causes the problem, is that there's a loss of oxygen to those tissues. And so you start to get fungus under the nail bed, but at the same time, it also causes the cells at the ends of the nerves to start to die off too. So the two of them can go hand in hand.
Tell people what your hours are, because we had somebody who vacations in Arizona who wants to set up an appointment. What are your hours?
Well, I'm in my office. I'm 70 years old, so I'm semi-retired. So I work Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Thank you. Most of the time, I don't feel like it either, but every once in a while, it springs up and goes, hello. So I'm in the office on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 8 a.m. to 12 noon, 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. But if you want to get a hold of me, I do answer the phone from 7 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock at night, 7 days a week. The reason is my patients are treating themselves at home. And yes, anybody can do this. This is not, if you can sit in a chair, you can do the treatment. So, but because they are treating themselves at home, I want to make sure that if they have any questions or concerns, that we nip them in the bud right then. We have follow-up visits in our office, so that it isn't like you're just getting turned loose, that there's an active protocol of coming into the office for at least a 12-month period of time once you become a patient of mine. But what I don't ever want to have happen is somebody that had something happen that they question and go, well, geez, I've got an appointment with him a week from Wednesday. I'll just ask him then and stop doing the treatments. That's not what's going to get you better. You call me now, you get the questions answered now, and you continue to treat yourself until you come in a week from Wednesday. Because that's the way that we get you better, is by actually getting you to do the treatments.
What other areas do you treat besides neuropathy?
Well, I am a chiropractor, so I'm a good chiropractor. I didn't get into this because of the fact that I was not good at being a chiropractor. But we have some very low force techniques that we use in chiropractic. We've been able to do a lot in helping mitigate some people's problems with migraines and things this way. And I also have a program to help to get type 2 diabetes under control, and even possibly in some cases be able to reverse it. So that, but my primary emphasis is actually the neuropathy. That I don't actually advertise the chiropractic portion, that I'm still taking care of patients that I started treating 37 years ago, and now their grandchildren and their great-grandchildren. It's kind of scary, but it makes me feel a lot older when I have somebody that was 3 years old when I first started, and then all of a sudden I'm seeing their 20-year-old kid. But that is happening. So those are the things that happen.
Just tell people how, again, they can reach you.
My office number is 480-556-1358. My website is neuropathycurable.com. That would, of course, be www. And if you'd like to send me an email, it's Dr. Sartz, that's DRSARTZ at azneuropathycenter.com. And like I said, I am available by phone from 7 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock at night, 7 days a week. That outside of the office hours, I am the one that's going to answer the phone.
Dr. Sartz, I got to tell you, we are so lucky to have you. Your show always goes by so fast, but you'll be back with us again next month. And if you missed the show today, you can go to iHeart under Ask the Experts or YouTube, and you can see the show again. Dr. Sartz, thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's Dr. Patrick Sartz. He is, when it comes to neuropathy, this is the man you want to speak to. We're going to go to a quick break. We'll be right back.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.